Betsy. I'm Betsy and half Greg, and Vicki. You're Vicki and half.
I'm Vicki and
Greg.
half Betsy.
Yeah, Betsy. There we go. So, welcome everybody to the roundup. Right? I am thrilled to be back with Vicki. I always have fun time with you, Vicki, hanging out and chatting.
Yes,
it's always been a good time.
Me too.
I'm kind of curious because we're in different scopes of the world. So, in my part of the world, it's going to be in the 80s today. What's it going to be in your part of the world?
Oh, you mean temperature?
Yeah. Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be
but
hot?
we have Celsius, and it's going to be like 20
Celsius. So
yeah,
there's kind of the difference that we have going on.
And I'm already wearing a
long
sweater.
Yeah. It's time for you to hit your winter, and we're going to be planting the garden today. So as we welcome everybody into the roundup in chat, we've got a special guest this week, and I'm going to go ahead and welcome him now. Let's go ahead and welcome WikiTree's member of the week, Kevin Campbell. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Got my WikiTree orange on.
Like you do.
Great.
WikiTree.
Yes.
I've got my Thon, my Rocky, the raccoon, and Vicki's got her glow WikiTree logo on. So we're all WikiTree out. I got to tell everybody just a real short story about Kevin, that he made sure that I only ate vegetables at Roots Tech. So I appreciate you, Kevin, for that.
Not a problem. More meat for the rest of us.
That's true. We shared a meal, and he was sitting next to me. And every time he passed me a plate, I go, meat or veggies? And he goes, you can eat this. So it was great meeting you at Roots Tech as well.
It was.
Okay, guys. So let's see who we have here. Well, Mel, you were first one in. Hi, Mel. And I love that. In the dark of the night. I think that's a storyline that we should maybe start for Midnight Madness for the Connect-a-thon, and everybody finishes the story in the dark of the night. And we've got Anne and Susie, and we've got Amanda and Rick. I hope no one has taken my front row seat. You are safe. You've got the best seat in the house, Rick. Nice and snug at home. And Greg is not here. I guess we should address this. Hopefully Greg is back. Greg is having a little cleanup from the storm. So he is handling that. He may or may not pop in just to say hi. If you're an Appalachian, you will see him a little bit later in our monthly meeting. But he is doing some cleanup from the storm, and he will be back next week. So I think the whole gang will be back next week. So you guys will be back to normal. And let's see, who else do we have coming in? So we got Victor, and you guys were chatty this morning. You guys are having a good time chatting along. And we've got Dee. So I need to say hi, Augusta. I'm sorry that you're in bed with a nasty flu and bronchitis.
Me too.
Oh, it's just terrible. You just can't get it out. It's got to work through. So both of you, I hope you feel better. And let's see, who else do we have coming in? We've got Tamara. Hi, Tamara. Appalachian in Cleveland. And Tamara also is my gardening guru. We talk about gardening a lot as we go through. And of course, we got Mr. Barriolo. Of course, Barriolo, who I'm going to send an Italian profile later on today. The guy was born in, wait for it, Italy. I need help. That's all I know. I can see Chris rolling his eyes this week. And we've got Murray. So Murray, you're kind of sort of near the same place as Greg. You're kind of our Greg fill-in for the chat as well. And we've got Tia that's in. And let's see, who else do we have coming in? We've got a couple of people sneaking in late. So if I miss you, I'm very sorry. I'm going to try and get you in. So we got Patricia Jackson. Soggy Kentucky and still raining. For those of you that are kind of like in the middle of the U.S. and kind of going diagonally from Texas up to the Northeast, are having some severe rain and flooding this week. So we wish you well. It's really going to be a tough weekend for you guys. So we definitely wish you well, and stay safe and stay warm. Thank you, Ann. I did have biscuits for breakfast, and in honor of our dear Mags, I had blueberry butter with them. So biscuits to everybody who has not had them. already. And we've got Crystal coming in and Denise. Hi, Denise. We've got some really, really fantastic USBH, United States Black Heritage profiles to show off in the second half of the show. So thank you for being here as a leader, Denise. We appreciate that. We appreciate your profiles as well. Gail and Robert, sorry. Thanks. And those two probably couldn't be from two different places of the world. So Gail's in kind of the Midwest, I believe, of US, and Robert is in Dorset. So welcome and thanks for joining us as well. And Terry from Columbus, Ohio. Hi, Terry. Oh, that's so sweet. Murray's been checking on Greg every day.
Oh, great.
You know, I always, if you watch my bingo, I used to always say the power of WikiTree. This is kind of like that hidden power of WikiTree that people don't speak of, the friends you make that you might not have ever known on, and then you meet them on WikiTree and something happens, or they need a helping hand, or they just need a, hey, how you doing? And that's kind of the power of WikiTree as well. So that's pretty cool, Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I think that will cover it. Getting delayed feedback on the system. You might have two versions of this Hangout going on. You might have it in Discord, maybe. Maybe it's playing in Discord or on two different browsers. That's usually 99.9% of the time what happens with that. Okay. So let me start off because I was tasked with one very, very important thing. And since I've got my Thon shirt on, who has signed up for the Thon? And if you have, shout out your team. Vicki, are you on Global?
Globetrotter, yes.
Globetrotters. I love their logos for that. I'm gonna, everything that we're talking about today is also in the description down below. And I'm just gonna put it there. The reason why I mention it is because Wednesday at midnight Eastern is cutoff. So if you are on the fence, if you're thinking about it, if you're unsure, go ahead and make the decision real quick and come on and join the fun. It's a lot of fun. The Hangouts are back every 4 hours, and I do not have a official Connectathon mug. I usually do. I have my Appalachian mug today, but this is good. So we've got a couple of people not yet getting signed up right now. Wait.
Yes.
After the show, you got to watch us first, right? And then go sign up. But we love it. So this is a great mix of people. Midnight Madness, we're going to do something kind of different this Midnight Madness. You guys really like the music theme. So we're going to kind of do one night a movie theme and one night a music theme and ask you questions that you could use for your biography. So we always like to treat Midnight Madness as biography builders. So when we ask you questions, then these are things that you could put in memories on profiles for some of your ancestors, your parents, your brothers, sisters, stuff like that, or even in your own life. Okay, so how's everybody doing? I love seeing all the different teams. We've got a really variety of teams going on.
Yes, and the emojis.
I love
like for the terriers, the tortoises. I love that. I
do too. It makes it fun. And you know, the genealogy, Kevin was probably there and heard me talk to many, many people at Roots Tech. One of my biggest things with genealogy is it can be lonely. We can get deep into research or deep into DNA and hold that thought about DNA. We can get really deep into it and it can be lonely. So when you guys do little fun things like the emojis and come hang out with us during the hangout, it's fun for us too.
Yeah.
We have a good time. And genealogy should be fun because it can be frustrating.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, so as we're talking about DNA, and I mentioned DNA, then let's go ahead and bring up, I think I need to.
I see somebody asked a question
Yes,
of me.
are you on a Thon team?
I'm not on a Thon team. I am having shoulder surgery on Tuesday. So I will be recuperating and out of commission for a couple of weeks.
Oh, well, I hope it goes well.
I do too. And I will tell you, Kevin was very, very polite. He shared with his Thon team that he would not be able to do that because of that. So he is very polite and kind for doing that. I won't tell you what team he was thinking about being on. But so we've got the Connect-a-thon, but let's go ahead and talk about the question of the week. Now, this one is a very this one's very, very interesting question. This one isn't as easy as some of the other questions that we come up with in WikiTree. And what surprises did you find from DNA testing? Now, I know Chris Ferriolo can attest to this with Italy, and because we've talked about it a lot, and then I can attest to it from Appalachia. We have a lot of pedigree collapse, and we have a lot of endogamy. And when you have those two items, you're having DNA surprises. So as we know, and this is why I kind of wish Greg was here. Greg has been very open and kind about mentioning that he is adopted. So sometimes the DNA surprises are you didn't know you were adopted. He did. So he was able to go ahead and trace both lines. And sometimes you're an NPE. There's a big fancy term for it, but the term I like to use best is not the parent that was expected. And that would be me. So I have that situation. So DNA runs kind of all throughout our projects and all throughout our members. And it can be a sensitive topic. So as you guys are chatting about it and talking about it, let's remember that sometimes this could be a trigger for people. And Vicki, you mentioned you had an interesting story to match this question.
Yes, it was interesting. There was a rumor in the family that my grandmother was not her mother's child. That maybe she was born from a maid, but through DNA, I detected that there was DNA from her mother's line. So I proved that she was her mother's child. But recently, I got a confession from an aunt,
Wow.
and she said no. The mother confessed before she died that her to my grandmother that she wasn't her child.
Oh wow!
So what happened is that her husband had this child with a sister of hers. I'm not sure if I'm making it clear.
That makes the DNA tracing just a little bit more challenging when it's siblings.
Yes, but I had a match that is so certain that is like 60% that is a single lady, and well, it's a sister. So
how did you
imagine?
These people are deceased?
Yes, but I found the connection through my father.
So how do you document? How did you document, or are you not ready to document? Because this is another question that kind of relates to this. When you find surprises, documenting it in a biography on Ancestry or WikiTree or wherever you might do it, that's tricky too.
Yes, I'm not an expert, of course, but I'm not documenting this.
It's tough, right?
Yes, so technical.
Living people too that might not take it so well, I guess, as well. But so if the DNA is there, it's for everybody to find as well. So it is kind of tricky. That's a really interesting story and definitely a little tricky with having siblings. And Kevin, I need to let everybody know that Kevin is running and in charge of the Campbell DNA project here on WikiTree, and you have an interesting DNA surprise.
Yeah, I have a couple in my family tree. not anything to do with Y DNA, but it is on my father's side of the family. One of them's on my father's side, and the other's on my mother's side. But I've done every type of DNA, autosomal, which would be typical of Ancestry, Y DNA, and mitochondrial DNA. And I've been working a lot on my father's side of the family, and there was a match in Ancestry, and I didn't recognize the last name, and it told me it's for sure on my mother's side of the family. So I kind of ignored it for a while, but I decided one day, this one is a very close match, so I should probably inquire. So I reached out and messaged the gal through Ancestry, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you need to talk to my mother. My mother's father is L.T. Fredericks." And I said, "How could your mother's father be L.T. Fredericks? That's my great grandfather." and so first I'm a little concerned, like, what happened? and to find out that she is my great aunt, and her mother fled Mexico with 3 children because her husband was murdered, and she ended up working for my great grandfather in his office, and surprise,
An MPE.
yeah, so that's an MPE. And so, at first I was concerned, like, oh no, what did my great grandfather do? And she goes, oh no, my mother said he was a great man. She really liked him a lot. And
I think that's clear.
yes, very clear. And so I have a great aunt that is only 3 years older than me. And she lives in the Central Valley of California. And I have visited her 3 times. It's great.
Cool.
Great addition to the family. And for her, she didn't know anything about the family because she was more or less, that event happened. And it was great to meet another family member.
So did you document this on your grandfather's in her biography? This story?
Yes. I mean, she's in my WikiTree, tree, and also on Ancestry. She's part of the family, so she's documented there.
But the story, have you documented the story?
I haven't. I need to do a better job of that. So I'm kind of getting into WikiTree, and then I come back and then get a little bit more elaborate or in depth on the biographies.
See, the reason why I mentioned it specifically for you, Kevin, is because you also are running a DNA project. So you've got a little bit more knowledge of the DNA that you could probably break it down to, as a lot of Americans say, tell me like a 3-year-old so I can understand it. So
Right.
You could break down the story. The reason why I mentioned this for Vicki and for Kevin is kind of going along my own lines with a DNA surprise. I kind of knew in 8th grade biology but I didn't understand there wasn't DNA. I won't date myself and tell you how old I am, but DNA and things like that weren't really there. What we were doing is blood typing and eye color matching. So I kind of knew something was wonky, right? But because it's documented, it's on my profile, I have 2 sentences and only 2 sentences that document it, but they're very, very, very clear sentences on how, who I'm related to, why my last name is Craig, but the man that's listed as my biological father on WikiTree, his last name is Linger. So sometimes just 2 sentences or a sentence enough, or sometimes there's a really, really great story where both of you have had other people come in to help share those family stories, and you were able to take those family stories and research it back. This is kind of where it gets tricky too, because with DNA, and I feel like I'm Greg with this because Greg always says this to me. With DNA, you can't just say confirmed with DNA on WikiTree without some type of source document and backup. So MPEs have a little bit of hard time with that. Adoptees could have a hard time with that because, as you know, you can't just go search an adoption form. They're not out there like birth certificates and deeds and things like that. They're considered personal and private. So it's really cool. And I look forward to see how both of you document it. My husband's paternal line, he wishes he had a surprise. He, I think, goes back to the second ice age and still not a match on FTDNA. So on his father's side, on his mother's side, it's the Hatfields, the McCoys all the way. But so that's kind of interesting. And I want to go over something that Oliver mentioned on the G2G for this question, because I think a lot of people out there who might be watching here live or might be watching after the fact have similar concerns. So Oliver, who's part of the Germany project, said for the longest time I was skeptical about DNA testing, and I finally curiosity got the better of me. And I'm going to ask everybody in chat. I'm going to guess that most of us did DNA because we saw the commercial of somebody in lederhosen or somebody eating lasagna. You know, Mags and I call it the lasagna commercial. You know, you saw something or somebody said, hey, you know, Micus, you look Italian. Well, it's German. It's not Italian, but thanks, because of DNA. So in his ancestry, he found a name, Rosenstengel, which may have been Jewish, and another line came from Pomerania, and it may mean Slavic ancestry. So a couple of years ago, I took the family tree autosomal test, and the results really surprised me. 100% northern Germany and North Sea coast. Now, I know that he lives in Germany, and he is in Germany. So forget about the Jewish and Slavic ancestry. Even those of my ancestors found in Eastern Europe might have originated from northern Germany and also married among other immigrants. He's saying his DNA is boring, but the thing that I want to point out is he's also kind of talking about ethnicity versus DNA as well. In ethnicity, if you look on your DNA, it will change constantly. Mm-hmm. So I think when we talk about,
will change.
Yeah. So ethnicity is kind of like the fun party tool thing, but then when you talk about some DNA and DNA samples, most of the time we're looking to see who we're related to. So there's kind of two parts to the DNA surprises. And I thought this was so fascinating with Judy, and Judy was at Roots with us as well. So when I was growing up, I didn't live near extended family, and all I knew about my ancestors was told that my parents and brothers, we were German. And how many people have done that? They're like, oh, you're Italian, oh, you're German, oh, you're Spanish, but you don't know. And then she went to 23andMe and said it was less German and more Romanian and Slavic. Now, this is also kind of where you can use ethnicity to look at your matches to kind of see the areas in the regions. And this is what we've had to do with my husband's line. It's just this line is not easy because a lot of people in countries do not test. They know their history. They don't need to know their American cousins, for example. And France is illegal. So, and that's where my block is. So kind of where we're going back. So I love some of these surprises that you guys are feeling comfortable to share, because I know this is a trigger and this is tricky. And I really appreciate you guys sharing some of this and some of your stories. There are several different places that you can test. And I will drop I think the link is down below. If you use one of the links down below, that helps WikiTree out. I think they get a little bit from recommending or referring. But I want to point out that for WikiTree, remember that for DNA, you always want to use your biological parents and so on, and grandparents and things like that. So then it will trace the DNA and propagate throughout the system. So that is the DNA surprises of the week, but I'm going to pass it off to Vicki.
Well, now I'm going to show you the 12 photos, but we only have one photo for 12 photos. So the first one is from Tia. This one is from Tia. The theme for this month is couples. This is the new theme. So the only answer is a really interesting story. And I guess we mentioned something about this last week when we were talking about some of the notables. And Tia mentioned that her second great grandparents, Benjamin Franklin Rounds and Coralie Rexford, were both deaf, and they were prominent in the Minnesota Association for the Deaf. And well, they lived in Duluth, and they are standing outside the courthouse in 1913 in this photo. This is an interesting phrase. In 1907, Benjamin sold his interest in the Akron Register to move up to Duluth and wrote in his last article as editor, because he was an editor of the Akron Register, in laying aside the pen, I wish to state with distinct satisfaction that the theory that a deaf person could not successfully edit and publish a newspaper had long ago been refuted. Wow, what a pride to be able to say that, and that this is your ancestor. And Tia says that this uncropped photo can be found here. So look at this photo.
Oh,
This is amazing. And this was taken in 1913. So we should give a prize to the first one who finds Tia's great-grandparents in this photo.
We're going to need a bigger version than that.
I know where they are. They're somewhere around here. But what a great picture. These are the delegates at the 12th Annual Convention of the Minnesota Association of the Deaf in Duluth, Minnesota. So thank you, Tia, for sharing that. This is amazing photo and this great story. We're a pride.
That is great. That's a treasure.
Great. Yes.
It's awesome. Funny. He's the one with the.
I love these old pictures. I love these old pictures.
Yes, but I haven't seen any picture like this, like so long in this format. Well, now let's celebrate our ancestors with a connection to April. We only have two ancestors to celebrate, but both are great stories. This one was shared by Alexis Nelson, and we all love these photos. And I'm going to read it because it's really interesting. I have to read it all. Her great-grand-aunt Catherine Marvin Reeves was born on April 1810. And Catherine is here with 5 generations in this photo. She's sitting at the center. This is Catherine. Her daughter is on the left. Her great-granddaughter to the right. Great-granddaughter is standing. And her great-grandson is next to her. This is her great-grandson. Well, this is the interesting story. She lived in Wabash County, Indiana, and she was often called upon to go with the local Miami Indians to care for a sick child, a problematic birth, or a long siege of smallpox within the tribe. Her daughters, Angeline and Mary, would watch their mother ride off on horseback with her black medicine bag tied to the saddle horn and accompanied by 5 or 6 painted warriors. Wow. Imagine that, having that image or being there and seeing this is so heartwarming. Well, when the Wabash River was running bank to bank, Catherine and her Indian companions would grip the necks of their mounts as the horses swam the swollen river. Several days or weeks later, Catherine and the warriors would return, her horse loaded down with meat, berries, and gifts from appreciative Indians. Amazing story. She passed away in 1902. Thank you, Alexis. This not only a great photo, as you usually do, but what a story.
Amazing. It really is an amazing story. I hope it's on the biography as well for multiple biographies, because these, once we're gone, these stories are gone.
Yes.
Oh, look at this chef. This is awesome.
We have a chef. Yes, this was shared by Star Klein, and her grandfather Constantine Stavros Panagakos, was Greek, and he has a triple connection to April. He sailed from Greece to New York on April 1912, and he died on April 1979, and his wife also died in April. So we are celebrating the life of Constantine. He left Katrina, Greece, that was his home, when he was only 16, and he never saw his family again.
Wow.
Oh, so young. And he enlisted in the US Army, he served as a cook, and he became a naturalized US citizen as a result of his military service in 1919. And after the Great War, he married and raised 7 children. He worked as a cook, later owned a restaurant. I guess this is his restaurant, and retired as the head chef at a large hotel. Wow.
I love seeing photos of people in their occupation. You know, the portraits and the sitting photos, I love seeing those too, because I know how much it meant to people back in those times. That was expensive to get a photo. Not all could do that, but I love seeing these candid photos like this too in their occupation.
Yes, and you can see that he's happy with his job, and that he's really a proud chef. So thank you both. Thank you both for sharing this. So let's go for our interview, and let's meet.
Kevin.
I'm going to stop sharing, and let's talk to Kevin. So Kevin, thank you for accepting our invitation. We're so glad
Thanks
to
for
have
having me.
We were talking before going live, and we were speaking in Spanish because Kevin has a connection to Latin America. So that was fun. So tell us about your interest in genealogy. How did it
Well,
form?
as you alluded to, I grew up overseas. My father was in the oil business, and for some reason I had never, I didn't meet my extended family, only my grandparents, when we would come back to the U.S. every summer for a month. That I always had this interest in history and everything else. And one day I found my grandparents' family Bible, and in the back of all the Bibles it has the family trees a lot of time and all these names written in it. And so that got me going. I started when I was 17 or 18 years old. And so that was in the old days when everything was by mail and handwritten on group sheets and pedigrees and stuff like that. And I wanted to see where my family fit into history, of course, world events going on, and then of course the U.S. So I just got the genealogy bug, and I've been doing it ever since I was in my teens, and now I'm retired, and boy, do I spend a lot of time doing genealogy.
Yes, you say you spend several hours every day working in WikiTree, and I want to highlight this phrase for that you said. I really enjoy the hunt, and I like to connect the dots. Over my 40-year genealogical journey, I have been helped many times along the way, and I'm trying to pay it forward. That's a great phrase. Yes, this is what inspired all of us. And you say you work primarily on Campbell profiles. So
yeah, I mean, I've been doing
that.
this for a long time, and for some reason, I am focused on Campbell. I guess it's because my birth name or whatever, and I've done Y-DNA testing and all that. I have a brick wall. Charles Campbell, 1785, born in Kentucky, according to the 1850 census, to unknown parents, and to where in Kentucky is unknown. But Y-DNA testing showed that I am connected to a person in Lexington, Virginia, Gilbert Campbell, that died in 1751. So so I'm trying to make that link between my Charles Campbell and Gilbert. So there's that missing generation. He had 3 sons, and of the 3 sons, one of them we know the genealogy very well, but 2 of the other brothers disappeared. And after they sell their property in what was then Augusta County, Virginia, and they sold their property right before this Revolutionary War. So a lot of people from the Augusta area migrated to Kentucky. So I'm trying to sort out Kentucky, and while doing that, I can't find them. So hey, I gotta figure out every Campbell around in Virginia and Kentucky. And I guess early on, I've touched a lot of families before, and then I see that I've revisited them. So I decided, hey, we need to document this all in one place. You know, even the ones that don't work for me, I document those in WikiTree, and I feel like Columbo or something. Martin Jones, you know, I get a clue of something, and I check, you know, what kind of sources are attached to it. I check family search, find a grave, all this, and I really sort it out. And unfortunately, a lot of Campbell first names are all the same: James, John, George, and I think everybody's experienced over the years that on Ancestry, my Charles Campbell, there's probably 100 family trees with him in it. Well, most of them have wrong information in there. So I want, you have to make it right. And so I'm going through, and there's many conflated profiles in everywhere. And I try to fix it. And when I fix it in WikiTree, I also fix it in Family Search, so it doesn't come back and somebody undo it, because they say, well, it's on Family Search this way. And so, yeah. So, hey, that was a long answer to your question. Hopefully I answered it.
Yes, you did it. But you also have help from others, right? Because you have many projects, many Campbell projects.
Yes. Well, first off, I did Y-DNA probably almost when it started, and have upgraded my tests over the years to the big Y700. But I am a member of what we call informally the Campbell DNA team, and that is a group of about 8 of us from Family Tree DNA that have tested Campbell's, and I have 2 buddies that are in my branch of the Campbell tree that the 3 of us are addicted to WikiTree, and we decided, you know, as we're sorting through all the Campbells, let's document it, and let's try to attach Y-DNA tests to it. And that's kind of what we're doing. So I have Adam Campbell is heading up our Patriot project. That was one of our first projects out there. Right. And we've gone to the DAR and the SAR database and indexed all the Campbell references in a table for the SAR and a table for the DAR, and we're trying to attach them to profiles that are already in WikiTree, and if they're not in WikiTree, to create the profiles. And so, and ideally, as I mentioned earlier, everybody's name the same, John or James. With creating some cousin bait to get people to come take a look and maybe work on the profile with us, that also may be an opportunity. Hey, we can't sort out these 2 James Campbells from Augusta County. So, hey, can we get a test? Because everybody's named the same at the same time, and they're the same name as their father, and so on. So the Campbell Patriot Project. And then what we have is a bunch of projects that were labeled the Campbell what is it? Campbell's of ... and just fill in the dots. So Campbell's of Augusta County, Virginia, and so on. And we have indexed all the records for those counties. What was it? Probate records, land records, and marriages if they're available. And this is, we're mostly focused on colonial times, and we've extended it to now to the Civil War. And what we're trying to do is connect it to profiles and attract people to, hey, Carter County is my county in Tennessee. I want to jump in there. We've done the heavy lifting, and I mentioned Adam, but the other big collaborator is Brandon Campbell. And this young kid is I think maybe 30 years old, and he works. He does all kinds of stuff, building out around the house. And I've not seen the volume of work this guy can put out in indexing files is great. He's getting ready to roll out North and South Carolina. And so I invite everybody to come take a look.
And I should mention too that, when you talk about Augusta County, for those that are familiar with the U.S., almost all of Virginia was Augusta County. So it's not, a lot of people think that our counties were just kind of small. At the time that you're talking about colonial, it was not only just Virginia that we know now, but it was parts of, like you mentioned, Kentucky that we know now. And it was a quite large expanse. These people were not really interested in writing down their births, their deaths. They would bury their dead as they travel. They would birth as they travel. So finding records is really, really tough. So by Kevin combining this DNA component is necessary, because remember too that this is still working a little bit in the Appalachia area that was populated by a lot of Scots, right? And Campbell is a very popular name. So as we like to joke about the Smiths and the Jones, Campbell's pretty popular too. So the work that you just documented and you just mentioned sounds like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this. I'm just doing that. I'm doing. It is a huge amount of work.
It is. And it's fun. And I like people reaching out, and we need some help. I mean, and I bet there's people on this program today that have Campbell's in their tree. Let's try to sort that out. And what's interesting is as you mentioned, Augusta County, when it was formed, was huge and took parts. It was even included Kentucky back then. That what we like is as Adam and Brandon and I are working on these counties, that we start in Virginia and we start working on Kentucky or Tennessee, we can see the movement of the families, and again, we have indexed all the family search records. So if somebody else comes take a look, hey, my Campbell was in this county, come take a look at the deeds and the probate records and see if it's there, and let us know, and we'll tag. I mean, they can tag the profile because there's the link there to cite it on their ancestor, but we'll update the table. So we got some missing gaps in there, but
no. So
I could go on and on. I'm sorry.
No, never mind. So we'll stay with that message, right? The power of collaboration. So please, if you have Campbell's in your family, like Tia, who said that Kevin helped her with some Campbell's, please reach out to Kevin or Brandon or Adam, the Campbell heroes. So thank you, Kevin.
But I think maybe we convinced her to go ahead and jump on it. And I will say that Kevin's also working on one of our notables that has been tricky. And Kevin and our dear Irish John, who couldn't be here today, we're both working in tandem, one on this side of the world and one on the other side of the world, to break down a Campbell notable, which we never thought we'd be able to do. So it's really cool. And this is, again, as you said, the power of collaboration, the power of WikiTree. You never knew who you were going to meet, and Kevin just popped into our Discord and we attacked him. Hey, we got a Campbell we need help with.
Well, so thank you, Kevin. Thank you for all you're doing for keeping WikiTree strong, healthier, and full
Not
of
a problem.
capitals.
If I could just say one last thing is,
Of course, please.
this what is so great about WikiTree is the ability to collaborate. And my two buddies and I were in there doing all this work. We kind of have our heads down. I just recently joined Sandy's Appalachian project. I haven't done anything like that, and I'm not brown nosing here, Sandy, but
Sure,
I was
okay.
so impressed with how well organized that project is that I'm going to recommend it to my two buddies because that's all the areas we're researching. So my only thought is the people on here join a project of some kind.
Yeah, it really helps.
And you can get more involved. And not only that, you're helping each other because somebody says, "Oh, I got Campbell's here," and then they say, "Oh, well, we're from here." I go, "Oh, well, how about checking out this over there?" So the resources available on WikiTree are tremendous. So I take advantage of a project.
And you don't have to do genealogy alone. That was the kind of big thing. And like Kevin said, with our project, we have DNA experts. We have specific state experts down to even the county experts who will go to the courthouses for you and things like that. So we have general health experts. We have research experts. One of the favorite things, we have biography experts who will handwrite the biography, go and research and handwrite the biography. So that's kind of what a project does. It joins you with a larger community where you can chat about genealogy, because I'm sure all our spouses are pretty tired of hearing
They are.
about genealogy.
They are. Yeah, we're sitting in our rooms. This is where I'm at, doing genealogy for 2 to 4 hours every day at least. Hey, I could chat with somebody that's live.
Yeah.
And has the same interest.
Yeah.
Very. Yes.
You know who else is wanting to chat about genealogy?
I wonder,
Sandy.
we
have a new guest.
We have a new guest,
surprise.
and I've been hoping that this guest would show up, but I really wasn't sure. And it's Greg.
Hello.
How's Greg?
Hey there.
Okay,
how are you
Greg,
doing?
we need an update. How are you doing?
Cold.
You're cold.
I'm cold. We have no heat in our house for
for
a week now. Hey there, Kevin. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
Yeah.
You recognize me without my orange hat on?
Oh yes, I've been wearing that orange hat, and I almost had it on for this morning.
I'll send it up to you because you're probably cold.
Yeah, that's right. I could use a couple one. Yeah.
It's really useful now.
There's Finnegan. There he is.
I know how Finn. So Finn's been following you around. Finn's not sure why.
Oh,
you're not providing him all the comforts of heat in his home.
That's great.
You just have to put Finnegan all over you, and you will be hot.
Oh, that's right.
Instant.
So we have a rule that Finnegan's not allowed on the couch, but we know that when we both leave to go to church, he probably helps himself to the couch.
Exactly.
But if we're around, he won't. But the other day, I went to go somewhere. Like I was gone for 30 seconds. I get back, he's sitting in my spot. And then he wouldn't get off. I had to physically move him off the couch. I said, "No, this is the only warm spot in the house."
Yeah. Oh, poor thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Greg, do you want to see? I invite you to distract yourself from this terrible thing you're living, and I want to invite you to see the profile makeover.
Okay, that's super.
What do you say?
A few pictures. I could show you a few pictures if you're interested.
Of course.
Okay.
Please do.
So for those who don't know, I don't know how much you described, but we lost power off and on last Saturday. In fact, I was gone last Saturday for our cousin's funeral, and at the funeral reception, the church lost power. So the speeches and the memories that people were sharing all had to be done from the middle of the floor, using their loud teacher voices. And we got home from that. We had power, went off and on, and then it stayed off from 7 o'clock last Saturday, and the latest estimate of when it's going to come back is now Tuesday night at 10 p.m.
And how many people are without power around here? Is this widespread?
So this is, oh yeah, this ice storm that hit us. This ice storm that hit us was one that hit much of central Ontario and much of central Ontario. It's similar in power and strength to the ice storm that happened, I think, in '97 to eastern Ontario and Montreal and that part of Quebec. But certainly central and some of eastern Ontario, I think, as far as Kingston got hit. But our little area just outside of Aurelia has been one of the hardest hits, and we have the area where our power comes in has 23 hydro poles snapped off that all have to be replaced.
Oh,
and
wow.
Restrung and whatnot. So just that line alone, and that's just one little line in the whole township. Anyways, I took a bunch of pictures just to, but so some of it like there was beauty in it in the nature.
Yeah.
And you zoom in and like you see, like there's more ice than tree, than branch, right?
Yes.
Then that's the problem, because then when the ice gets too heavy, and the tree just can't bear it anymore, then that's what snaps. But we had a little cotton Easter in our front yard, and that was totally. I mean, it looks pretty.
It is. It's ghost-like.
It's ghost-like, yeah. But then here's our big. I don't think it's a maple. It's like a maple or an elm. So it should be nice and brown, big and round at the top, and it looks more like a weeping willow.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So all of the branches are just, and most of the trees were like that. And then of course the problem is that at some point the branches just get too heavy, and then they just snap right off.
And they might not come back, and you might lose it. Bounce back, I should say. You might lose that tree.
That's right.
Oh,
so once the on the third day, finally it got warm enough that the ice actually melted, and so Finn and I went for a walk because our side road was blocked, and this is what we came across.
Wow.
So from this view, normally all you would see is the light gray, the gravel. It's a dirt road, right? And you should see sky all the way. Like,
oh really?
Oh
yeah. Like this is not it looks like a covered bridge right now.
It does.
But normally you would just see dirt all the way straight to the highway, to the horizon, basically. And there's trees along both sides, but it should not be covered. See, these trees are bowed over this way. There's trees bowed over from left to right, and the other ones right to left, and then all these branches snapped off, and it's just solid all the way through. So it was a mess.
Private property, or is this owned by?
This is one of those township side roads. So the township,
they'll have to clean it up.
Since then, the township has gone by, got rid of the brush that's on the side. But they still have these overhanging ones that didn't snap off. They are still there, and they're just at roof level. If you have a high truck, it's going to be, you'll hear scratching sounds.
Oh no!
So as it goes through. So, anyways.
Oh, and what about your water supply? So
we finally we got to borrow a generator, so we have enough to keep our fridge and our freezer going. And some other electric appliances, we can plug in things. So I plugged in the router, so I have Wi-Fi, and we can recharge our devices daily. But it cannot hook up to we don't have it wired into our furnace or our water. So I've been feeling like a pioneer. Like Ancestry study, I've been hauling wood every day to put in our fireplace. I've been hauling water out of our pool to manually flush the toilets.
I mean, it's kind of amazing when you think about it, and what they did, and they did it times 10, every minute, every hour, every day.
Eventually this will all be over, but that was their lives.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Wow.
the only thing, I'm not cleaning out chicken coops or that.
Well, we're glad you're surviving and that you're staying warm as best as possible and taking care of Ben, of course.
Yeah, 3 or 4 blankets on your bed will help.
That's true. That's where
They'll do the
nice
trick.
warm grandmother quilts came from, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and my laptop is nice and warm, so I'll just hang out with you as you talk about the profile makeover.
Good idea. It's a good idea. Well, I'm sorry, but it's kind of fun.
Well,
maybe the first day.
The first day it was fun. It was interesting, but after a week, it's anyways. I hope you don't. They're ripping out our carpet because on top of the other thing, our sump pump failed, and then our basement is flooded and totally ruined. So they're ripping out our carpet right now as we speak, and then apparently they rip out the carpet and the padding, the under padding, and then they're going to get rid of the water and disinfect the floor.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was an.
So all the mold and
exactly. That makes sense. Yeah. When you say it like that, it makes sense. But I didn't even realize that was the thing. So if there's really loud noise as well, it's either the generator or it's them and their equipment. So I can mute myself if you're hearing too much.
So far, not.
Okay, good.
Well, let's see the profile makeover, shall we? This is dedicated to you, Greg. I'm sorry. Well, this is my screen. I think it's only fair that I should show this. 2 weeks ago, I showed a partial makeover that was being done by Lin Yang, and just to show you the process of a makeover. And this was her before picture. This was the profile, and now she finished it. So it's only fair that I show you the final result. We had this profile had like 60 photos of sources that Lynn had uploaded, and that was already really amazing. But now she finished, and now we have almost 200 photos of documents. So I'm sure she has a pretty good idea of how the life of Edwin was. So she wrote this amazing biography. It really is fun to read. It seems like you're reading a book. So it's a great biography. Of course, it has all the story of the whole family. She mentions the sisters. They had a story about a teacher. He met his wife through her teacher. Well, this was kind of interesting. Edwin became a notary public and a justice of the peace in Wisconsin, and he started to make cheese. He won prizes for his cheese various times.
Sorry, I have to go. So I'm just going to say goodbye because someone's phoning about the house and the flooding and stuff. So great to see you all. Thanks for
it
all
was
the
great to see you.
greetings. Yeah,
Greg.
take care.
Stay safe. Bye, Greg. Oh, well, he was active in a couple of dairy associations and became a member of the International Order of Good Templars. His cheese factory burned to the ground on 1871. I'm sure she got this from newspaper articles. They are all sourced. And he started again to continue to make prize-winning cheese. That's amazing. And there's a fun fact here. Edwin's pupil and sister-in-law, Angeline Stickney, married astronomer Asaph Hall and did his mathematical calculations for him. Both are now recognized for their roles in discovering the 2 moons of Mars. And Stickney crater on Phobos, that's one of the moons, is named for Angeline. So Edwin must have been a good teacher. Imagine that. So
that is amazing.
that is very inspiring. So I wanted to show the final result of a makeover. I will speed this up because look at all these sources. It's amazing, amazing. So thank you, Lynn. I'm being fair to show your result. And I just posted yesterday. I'm really sorry. I had a lot of work. But yesterday I posted the new profile makeover challenge. And this month I suggest this theme for inspiration. And it's flowers because,
Oh,
it's spring in the north. We have autumn here, but flowers is a good theme for a makeover. You can choose a profile of someone who loved flowers or gardening, or maybe you have a photo of someone holding a bouquet. Maybe a wedding picture of someone wearing flowers on their hair. Someone named Rose. Sorry. So I'm going to do this makeover profile. This is my great grandmother, and she was named Rosa Margarita, and Rosa is a rose, of course, and Margarita is Daisy. It's a daisy flower. So she had two flowers for a name, and I'm going to do this makeover as an inspiration. And this is my before picture. I'm just showing my before picture because I wanted to give you a tip. Many of our profile makeover participants had found it difficult to make a capture of their screen. So this is a little tip that I'm going to show you.
Awesome.
Maybe some of you think this is basic, but if you zoom out, and that is if you have iOS or Apple, it's command plus the minus sign or hyphen, and you can zoom out and take a screen capture this way. And you can use Shift command and the number 4 to get this snipping tool. If you're on Windows, you can screen capture with Windows with the Windows key, Shift plus S, or you can find the snipping tool on your window sidebar. So this is it's really easy to take the whole profile for a before picture. So I'm gonna zoom in again. So this was my tip about the profile makeover, and I hope you join for this month's challenge. Think of roses.
Especially
think of flowers.
If anybody's gardening or your family garden, I know that a lot of people in chat, we've talked about gardening. So you might have ancestors, grandmas, grandpas that were farmers. This would be perfect too. Flowers, and add those in.
Yes. And in Spanish, we have the Flores surname, which is flowers. So it's a good idea too if you have Latin ancestors or Spanish ancestors. So that's it for me.
Oh, are we on to the profiles of the week?
Yes.
Let me see. So I was wondering if Greg was going to hang out and do these, but he's going to leave them to me. So I need to first say that I do not know anything about boxing. I only know well enough to speak on one boxer because he lived not too far from me before he became famous, but he's not one of the profile of the week. So I'm just going to kind of gloss over some of this information. I really want to do a shout out to projects that have done fantastic jobs with these boxers, and this I guess would fall under the notable sports as well. So I thought at first, since I didn't know much about boxing and boxers, I would go through some tips. I did a little bit of research yesterday on this. So to me, boxing was boxing, but no, it's not. And someone had made sure to mention that there were originally knuckle boxers and now there's rules boxers. So that was kind of intrigued me a little bit. So there are 4 different eras apparently to boxing, and these are all covered in the connections of the week. So while I give you just a few bits of trivia, I'm going to ask Kevin and Vicki and everybody in chat to get your connection list ready as we go through and see who's connected the closest to who. So there's a pre-Queensberry who was a gentleman. That is called early modern boxing. Did not know, but basically no rules. It was around 1800s, maybe early 1900s. Basically no rules. You probably have seen movies of this, and I can think of some of the movies where they're in a ring, a circle, I should say, not a ring. They're in a circle and they just are like they're fighting it out, duking it out. And then you see some of the richer people in their fancy outfits paying money and betting. So that's kind of what that first area is. And on our list, we have John Graham Chambers and Gentleman Jim Corbett, as well as Bob Fitzsimmons, kind of fit in to that pre-Queensberry kind of no equipment, just go out there and fight and make money. And then the next one was the pioneer era, which was around 1900s. I'll say 1920s. I think it was a little further than that it went through. But the pioneer area is kind of the early development of when the sport really became a sport of boxing. Still bare knuckle fighting a little bit, but we started to get into a little bit more organized of a focus, I should say. This was the rise of the American boxing, and there were a lot of racial barriers. And this is where we also brought boxing into stadiums instead of the little dirt paths that you have and things like that. So on this list for the rise of boxing, pioneers are Jack Dempsey. And probably a lot of people know his name. George Godfrey, Otto von Porat, I hope I said that correctly, and Johnny Badman Walker as well. Then moving on to the classic era, this is when they were really started to think of boxing the way that we think, the impressive jabs, the footwork, the things like that. And that was 1930s to about 1950s, I'd say pushing it almost to 1960s. And this is when boxing became mainstream. This is when boxing really, really became a big deal, and it had its livelihood really known. Radio, film, boxers were commonly put on films, for example. This is about World War II. And you have on the list, let me see. So you have Max Bayer, Joe Louis, who most of us have heard, and Rocky Crisperio is going to get me on this, Graziano. And then we have probably the one that everybody knows. This will be going into the modern era. And the modern era is where we really have rules. This was after the Cold War. So that opened up boxing to a global environment at that point in time. And many have suggested that it's really the Lewis Tyson fight with Muhammad Ali as well built in this group for the modern era. New divisions. They started to separate divisions, so you didn't have this one really, really big guy, boxing with a really smaller guy. So they started to have more divisions like the cruiserweight and super middleweight things. So that kind of gives you an idea about boxing. Sometimes when I see boxing, I leave the room. It's just not my sport. I don't know anything about it. So I thought it was interesting to kind of look over it. And I want to go through the profiles very quickly because I know you guys probably have already looked at them. You've probably already done connection checkers. So let me ask everybody, who is your closest?
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali.
Wow. Mine is John Chambers.
And
21.
21. And let me see. I forgot to even check my own to see who was my closest. And those of you in chat, tell us who your closest is as well. As I scroll down, so mine is Max and Jack Dempsey, both at 15 degrees. So that's definitely something to play. Connection.
I matched both Max and Dempsey. I'm a little bit closer than yours.
And it looks like 18. So I want to know who the first boxer is. I did see that. I did read that, and I think that Johnny Badman Walker is one of the first, but I don't think he is the first. But you're right. I think that a career out of punching people, I think somebody just was an enforcer, probably at a pub. A lot is my guess, but I won't go into it because it's not my wheelhouse and I'm not really sure. But that would be my guess that somebody said, hey, I can make money off of you. You do a really, really good job. Okay, so let me go through. So as you know, Muhammad Ali is pretty well known. This is a fabulous profile from the USBH project. And I love seeing categories. You guys know I love seeing the categories. These are like little file cabinets to me where I can see a little snippet of who they were. So they were political activists. Oh, they were from Louisville, Kentucky. Oh, Hollywood Walk of Fame as well. So kind of cool. And so this profile was really detailed. I love it how they bold the first part of it so it really captures who he is. They put the stickers. I love stickers as well, but they did the black quotes, which is cool. And a little trivia about him as well. He threw his Olympic gold medals in the Ohio River after being refused service at a whites only restaurant in his hometown of Louisville. So, I mean, can you imagine you're taking your Olympic gold medal and throwing it in a river?
Wow.
I mean, that's just kind of that's that was conviction right there. That was definitely conviction. Johnny Badman Walker, he was tough to research. I had a hard time researching him. There's not a lot of documented information about this guy. He was born in 1819, so he is really on the beginning. He's even kind of before the pioneers, and I love this. He was a champion, but sometime bar owner, author, and according to the census record, this is amazing with the census record, he considered himself a teacher of the noble art of self-defense. He actually told a census taker. So this gave me inspiration. The next time the census comes around, I'm going to get a little creative with my occupation.
For future references.
Yes, I'm definitely going to tell the census something a little different than just a one name or one thing. So he was, teacher of noble arts. It's got a venture of self-defense. Interesting. And Max, he was heavyweight world champion from 34 to 35. This is one of the ones that I'm closest to, which is always amazing to me because he's from Nebraska. Couldn't be too much further away, except in England, maybe from Appalachia. But another great profile that he has. So Max is known for wearing the Star of David on his trunks. He had partial Jewish heritage and defeated Max, and I hope Flo or Oliver's not in here to hear me mess up this name. Germany's Max Schmeling in 1933, and he became a symbol then. Because of that, he became a symbol of anti-Nazi defiance in the ring. So, we're talking about 1933. This pretty big deal to do something like that. That took some guts, I think, from that. So he is one of my closest. And then Joe Louis. I know nothing about boxing, but I've heard the name Joe Louis. I think a lot of us probably have. So Joe Louis is known as the Brown Bomber, held the heavyweight title for over 11 years. So he had to go in and fight for over 11 years. The longest reign in heavyweight history. This is just crazy. This is like going and defending your for that long. He had to stay in peak shape. And, he had to cover a lot of issues. This is kind of where racism came in as well. And he had to combat that. And he did it for 11 years. So another great USBH profile. And the record for the most consecutive title defense is 25. So for 11 years. I can't go in a boxing ring for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 seconds. I don't know how he did it.
Wow.
Pretty amazing. Okay. And then John Graham Chambers. So he drafted what is called the Marquis of Queensberry rules, and that was one of the first things I mentioned. So he drafted these rules in 1867. We're talking about sportsmanship and boxing in 1867, and these rules actually started the form of boxing and what boxing is today. They've grown on the rules.
Mhm.
There's no more bare knuckles, for example. But part of the Queensberry rules were to use gloves and timed rounds. So you probably have always, ding, 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 and you hear the round, and everybody goes to the corner and takes a break. So that was kind of interesting too. We're talking in 1867. They're talking about timed rounds. I just didn't think that they would consider that popular or even an issue at that point. Okay, Gentleman Jim. Let's come over to Gentleman Jim from San Francisco and then died in New York. And a notable as well. He was the professional boxer and heavyweight champion and known as the only man to defeat John Sullivan, which is a pretty big deal. But he also helped introduce the scientific approach to the sport. And remember, he was born in 1866 and died in 1933. And he's already talking about bringing science into this particular sport. So he was the first heavyweight champion under those Queensberry rules and known for that scientific boxing style. He defeated the bare knuckle legend of John Sullivan in 1892 by using science. So I'll let you guys read more about that on his profile and how he did that. But I was like, we're talking about boxing and science at that point in time. Okay. And another one that if you don't even know anything about boxing, you probably heard of Dempsey as well. Jack Dempsey. I know his name says William, but Jack Dempsey. And so he had a fight, and he was boxing's first $1 million gate. So what that means is that he was the one that the first $1 million that people paid to come in and along with betting to see. Fans paid a total of $1.8 million to see the fight between him and George Carpenter. I know it's not Carpenter. I'm going to get the name wrong. But Carpenter. This is, and again, we're talking 1921. So this is before the crash. People were living really well. This was kind of at the tail end going after World War I, but still, that's a lot of money. There's a lot of immigrants coming in and a lot of poor Americans coming in to pay $1.8 million in 1921. It's just crazy. So, and he was voted the greatest fighter of the past 50 years in 1950. So as we know, the modern era brought in different boxers and fighters. So Bob Fitzsimmons, the first triple champion who beat Corbett. So for him, again, 1863, we're really digging back for some of these boxers, which I found interesting. 1863, and he was born in England and came over and died in Chicago. And so he was the first 3-weight world champion, and the 3 weights were middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. Beyond that, I don't know exactly what they mean, but I just know that he was the middleweight, the light heavyweight, and the heavyweight, but he was known for a special knockout technique that was called the solar plexus punch.
Oh,
I will let you guys research that on profile and see what's going on. But what else was fascinating? There's a New Zealand connection. So for my Kiwis that are watching, there is a connection to New Zealand and to Australia in here.
Oh,
that's kind of cool. And then George Godfrey with his name Old Chocolate, and he was the top black heavyweight in the 1920s. But this is, again, where racism comes a little bit into play. And this is a dual managed profile with Canada and USBH. So he was denied a chance at a title, like many black fighters in this era, simply because of his race. So, but he's being the world colored heavyweight champion during his career. This is kind of interesting. This is where this brings back some of the things of what could have been, who could have he won against, and where this could have gone if he was only allowed to fight. And then we've got Rocky. I'm not going to mispronounce his name again. And then here's Rocky's picture. Doesn't he look like a boxer?
No.
He looks like a boxer. So, so as you see this picture, and I purposely he looks like a boxer when I first saw it, but Rocky was a former juvenile delinquent. So
Wow.
he kind of turned his life around through boxing and later became a TV personality. He played himself in the movie Somebody Up There Likes Me in 1956. So it's funny because you see this and you're like, whoa, he looks rough. He looks kind of like a boxer, but he was a juvenile delinquent who turned his life around and became a movie star.
Wow.
So you never know. You never know what you can do. And then Otto. Otto represented Norway, and I really love the globalness of this. So he won gold at the 1924 Paris Olympics. So boxing was a sport.
Oh.
And I love the sticker. I'm a real big fan of stickers. They draw me in. I see them. So he was represented Norway, and he won the gold medal in boxing. And he was one of the first European fighters to break into the U.S. boxing scene, which was huge. The U.S. boxing scene was huge at this time in the 1920s. So that will be a quick little trivia of your boxer connections for the week. I just want to mention two things. So there's connection checkers. So every Tuesday around noon Eastern, the new list appears on G2G. But a lot of people reach out and they're like, well, how do I know who's going to be voted? How do I know what's going on? We do know that Val Kilmer recently passed away, which I will say, very unpopular decision. He was my favorite Batman. And next week, guess what we have? We have the Batman connector. So guess what? You guys can go up on G2G and recommend. And so it looks like it does it, it's Batman. There's Robin on there. You can recommend who you would like to see on the featured connections. And I have no idea how it's decided, but they always give us cool options to go by. So that was kind of a way to answer two questions in one. And then since Chris Ferriola was in the audience, I will move on over to into the blogosphere. So every week, and this takes a lot of work for Chris. I'm not going to lie, this does. Every week, those of us that are blogging send Chris our blog updates, and he captures them all together and puts it up on a G2G post so you can read about what's going on in people's blogs. There are people in WikiTree, there's professional genealogists as well, there are professional bloggers. So all of us kind of put our blogs up there, including Chris's. And Chris mentioned earlier today, if you are curious about DNA and things like that, then you can go ahead and read his blog. He's blogging every week. There's a different theme from Amy Johnson Crow. And I think last week was Home Sweet Home or languages. So definitely check that out. Don't forget the Connect-a-thon as well. And I think, Vicki, as we wrap up, we do the social media post. And we've got the question of the week. By the way, all these links are in the description down below. So they're all down there. The question of the week, the one named Studies is Fleming. We've got connection checkers every Tuesday around noon Eastern time. And Zealand. We've got a new one-place study. WikiTree Plus. How many of you use WikiTree Plus?
Oh,
How many of
I
you are a little
don't.
nervous to use WikiTree Plus?
Nervous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I am.
don't be nervous. Instead, come see Greg and Lush, and they will explain any question you have. Bring any question you have, and they will help you go through it on how to use WikiTree Plus. Once you do get a WikiTree Plus search query, I like to save it because I know I'll be using it a lot. So I like to kind of save it and see what happens. And most of the time, I'm looking for errors with my stickers. You know, if I've got a profile that has errors, that has a sticker I put on. So yeah, I use them for monthly challenges as well. Sorry, Vicki. I use them for monthly challenges as well. I like to use them for connectors to try and find unconnected profiles that might have people in the same location with the same name. I like to use WikiTree Plus for that too. Okay. And there's a Discord party. How many of you have been on a Discord party before? Super easy. If you're on Discord, you'll go to the link that's on G2G. And this week is coming up the Ambassadors Project. And what does the Ambassadors Project do? They do just about anything that talks about WikiTree, inside and outside WikiTree. All social media, blogs, link builders. How many of you are link builders that you've got going on? Presentations. How many of you do presentations at your local historical society or anything like that? Azur's in charge of all of that, and she'll be doing the ambassadors party. So definitely join. Generally for the parties, there's two things that come out. Ask questions. If you've always wanted to know, you do not need to be a member, by the way.
Oh.
You can join and ask questions like, hey, what are you? Or where do I fit? So those are generally things for research parties. And then also the project will usually share if they have something new coming out or something that they've done. I'll give you a little hint. The whole bunch of WikiTree presentations have been updated. So if you do go to your historical society or would like to do a presentation, the templates are already there. Saves you time. And then Connect-a-thon.
Yay!
I don't think I need to say more. Let's just say that let's have fun with it and show up for the midnight hangout.
And I want to say something else about the Connect-a-thon. If you buy your snacks in advance, don't eat them yet, because I'm eating everything.
You know, that's a really, really good public service announcement, because me too.
Yes.
Me too. So definitely. Or if you're going to eat them in advance because you're just doing a test to see if they're really good Don snacks.
I am. Exactly. That's what I thought.
Then make sure you re-up, because when you're doing the thon, you're researching, like Kevin said before. You're doing the research. You're sitting there at the computer and you're thoning and you're working on the research. And going to the grocery store is not an option, especially if you're in your PJs and your fluffy slippers during the thon. So not an option. So good.
Yeah.
Very good public service announcement, Vicki. That was great.
Anne has a good tip. Anne says she has her snacks hidden.
See, but the problem is I would hide them, but then I would forget where I hid them. My son would find them now. My son would.
Yes.
Murray Maloney points out Greg is doing a WikiTree Plus beginners lesson thing.
Oh, during the monthly tech. So that's a great thing to.
What day is that?
Well, let me show you. So what we're doing here is we're doing for the week of Sunday. So we're doing this week of everything that's coming up. And because of the thon, that kind of takes our priorities. But if you go to G2G, at the very, very top of G2G, this post is pinned. So what's happening in April, and you can see everything that's happening. Here are the blogs that we're doing. We talked about the question of the week. There's a data doctor's challenge. We talked about the boxers. We've talked about the WikiTree Plus, which is always at the beginning of the month. I might add the Saturday roundup. which you guys are actually seeing. And if you're watching us after the fact, you're still seeing. So then as we come through, we've got the German stamp titch that comes around, Betsy's new Q&A, Connect-a-thon, Alabama Challenge, and Friday night date night. And then look, there is the Tech Talk.
TikTok.
April 28th.
April 28th. So you can always find this particular list at the very top of G2G. It's pinned. Anyone does a fantastic job of getting this up as soon as possible and doing multiple updates. These will give you by calendar, but keep in mind if you scroll down, you do have the challenges by project or topic that go on as a month. So it's not just a particular date. So as Vicki showed, the couples and the link builders, as we mentioned, as well as the profile makeovers, these are all monthly events. They're going to continue every month. But then the projects kind of sneak in with their really cool things. So if you have an interest in Q Sports, which I found out Q Sports is a lot more than just pool. So if you have an interest in that, they're doing some connecting there. Something kind of, almost every project does the connectors, but something kind of interesting. They might have something different, like category cleanup. If you're really good about adding categories to profiles, you might want to check that out. Canada's connecting. Love the connecting. A lot of these projects have connecting. And of course, Appalachia, we have our spring fling this month. So definitely scroll down. Don't just look at the top. Scroll down and you'll see the oncoming events. And anyone always gives us the thon calendar. So you can write it in your calendar, not to take vacation. And if you if you start writing a blog, definitely join the Ambassadors Project and get a badge for the Ambassadors Project. Okay. Whew, I think that's everything. Vicki, did we get everything in?
Yes, everything. Okay. We did it.
Okay. This was fun. I will not be back because you will have your regular roundup crew next week, and there'll be a new member.
Remember, next week is the Connect-a-thon.
Oh, that's right. There's a Hangouts. Good point. So nobody will be doing the roundup. They'll be doing the Hangouts instead. Every 4 hours. The schedule is already up there. So every 4 hours, just pop in. It's good to reset your brain, I think, to pop in for the Hangouts. And there'll be a prize, I believe, every Hangout. A drawing, chance to win. So I guess I will see everybody at 8 midnight Eastern time. Vicki, are you doing the Hangouts as well?
Yes, I'm joining now.
And this is when Chris Fariolo and others will be joining as well. Like I said, the Midnight Madness, we're going to change it up and see if we can convince some people to add some music and some movie answers to your biography or to your ancestors' biography. You never know. And by the way, those in the studio never know what I'm going to ask either. Vicki knows this. Vicki's been on my list.
It's exciting.
I think that's a wrap. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Everybody, enjoy your April. Enjoy your week.
See you next week.
See you then.